Cuisinart 4-cup $30 model versus the Cuisinart 12-cup $130 model. Both have been removed, and anytime you buy something, an electronic item, remove it from the box and take all the packing materials, take everything that you don't need to use with the unit, and put it all back in the box immediately, including the bags, everything. The 12-cup versus 4-cup, you can see that the 12-cup is much larger. Also too, the 12-cup has your typical glass carafe, and the 4-cup has a rather unique stainless steel carafe. Two carafes side by side, you can see there's quite a size difference. As with any new appliance, especially items that are made in China, where problems with lead and other things are common, you always want to wash them before using them. Always. All cleaned up. After using a sponge, you always want to rinse all the water out of it, then lean it sideways like this so it can dry. You don't want to leave a wet sponge sitting in a sink like this, otherwise they become a bacteria trap. We now have these drying. After you wash them and leave it to dry like this, don't leave it flat like this. If you do, it's not going to dry. Moisture is going to build up. Just put it at a slight angle to let some moisture. Hour later and everything's dry. You want to wash these also. They hold the filter inside the coffee makers. Next up, with hot water, you want to do a quick rinse of both machines. I'm only going to show you on one, you do the same thing on the other. Power cord, make sure you keep that out. Next, I'm going to quickly flip through both of the manuals. Pretty straightforward, and both coffee makers come with a coffee scoop and a couple of filters, but the filters they include are not very good. Both units have very short power cords. Both have a removable filter basket. This is for a number 4 size, this is for a number 2 size. The 12-cup includes this gold filter. These used to be an option, and in fact when they first came out about 15-20 years ago, they were actually made in Switzerland. Now of course they're made in China, but I do find that the coffee tastes better using a paper filter. Now another important difference between the two, 12-cup, this built-in water filter, right there. The 4-cup does not. So I suggest you use filtered water. I would use it with either, but this does have its own built-in filter. Now installation of the filter on the 12-cup, you need to let the filter, and all Cuisinart do this, you need to let the filter soak. It's got to soak in water for about 10 minutes and then you install it, which install it just means like that. Adding water is simple. Pour it in here on the 12-cup or here on the 4-cup. One thing it is much nicer about the 4-cup is if you only want to make, say, 2 cups of coffee, this one starts its measuring at the 4-cup line, so you kind of have to guess at 2. Now this one, on the other hand, you can see the marks 2, 3, 4, and you can see them from the inside too with the carafe, so it's much easier to make 1 or only 2 cups of coffee with the 4 carafe version than it is with the 12. Now I'm going to measure 2 cups on this. Filtered water, pretty easy. Now to get 2 cups out of the 12-cup version, a little bit difficult because the lines aren't clearly marked, especially when you go below 4. So I'm going to use this Pyrex with filtered water, of course, and that will give me 2 cups. Adding water to the 4-cup version, very simple. There's even a little measuring line that you can very easily see inside. Adding water to the 12-cup. On the 12-cup, it does have a measuring stick inside, but still it's a bit hard to see. You can see it from about 4 to 6 cups. Filters now in place. Now adding coffee to each. They give you these nice little measuring spoons. And I recommend that you experiment with this. Usually it says that one of these is good for 1 cup, but I find that it depends on the coffee. It's anywhere from 3/4 to 1 1/3 cups in here per cup of coffee made. So you want to experiment with that. Last but not least, on the carafe on the 4-cup, it is stainless steel and not glass, which is very nice. When you're ready to clean up, you don't have to wait for it to cool down. Put another back on the coffee maker. The next time you go to use it, everything's clean, and by the next morning everything will be dry. And again, I recommend the 4-cup over the 12-cup. The only difference that I could find would be features, and that the 12-cup makes more coffee than the 4-cup, obviously. Okay, I've run water through this one twice. Now we're ready to make coffee. ready to start. The 4-cup is very simple, just the one on-off button on the side. This one's got a few more features on it, but still you can just hit that start button and it's ready to go. It means the coffee's ready. On the 12-cup it's got a beep that happens. It happens after about 4 minutes, but one thing about the smaller one, the 4-cup, is there's no indication of when the coffee's ready. About 4 minutes for the 12-cup, coffee's ready, and about 5 minutes, just a slight bit over 5 minutes, and the 4-cup coffee is ready. And again, on the 4-cup there is no indication when the coffee's ready. It's just 5 minutes. Coffee is now ready. So since I'm going to use all the coffee all at one time, I'm going to turn both coffee makers off. If you leave them on, they'll keep the coffee hot for about 30 minutes. This one has the switch on the side, which on the power switch on the smaller one, it does have a light to indicate that it's on. And one of the first things I like to do when the coffee's ready is clean it right away. Take the filter out, toss it. Take the cradle out. Rinse it out like that. That's it. Put it back on the top like so. That's it. Don't leave it sitting in there with wet coffee. I see people do this. They leave a thing of wet coffee ground sitting in the coffee maker until the next time they do it or until they get home from work that day. If you like bacteria in your coffee, then go ahead and do that. If you don't, do what I just did, which takes, what, 5-7 seconds to keep the coffee maker clean. Since these do have pre-sugar, as I like to call it, when I take it off, give it a little swish real quick. And again, with keeping things clean, right when I take it out before I even make the coffee, take the lid off, rinse it. I like to put that up on the top of the coffee maker. How long did that take? Keeps everything nice and clean. Now, since I have the coffee pre-sugared and I want to have that perfect blend, the next thing you want to do, assuming you know how much creamer everybody wants, is take half and half, preferably organic half and half. Organic half and half has a much better flavor, and you'll find that if you use organic half and half, you will use less of it. I'm going to add that to the cup now. Now with pre-sugar, and we've got the half and half in, this is from the 4-cup. I'm going to pour this in first. And as you can see, I have a perfectly blended cup of coffee. The 4 is on the left, 4-cup, and no spoon is needed. Now we're going to do the 12-cup. And we have another perfectly blended cup of coffee. I've tried both coffees, and they both seem to be the same thing. By the way, the coffee used is from a local store, a premium brand, and it's a French dark roast. It's not a one of those well-known old commercial brands that dates back to the 50s, which, by the way, if you are drinking those type of coffees, they are horrible. The coffees that date back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s, that's back when the only purpose of coffee was to perk you up in the morning, and that was essentially it. A lot of those coffees actually weren't even fully made of coffee. Anyway, this is a premium coffee that I used, and with trying both, they are both the same from both coffee makers. The 12-cup is about $120 coffee maker, $130 depending on where you go, and the smaller one is about $30. Now, the smaller one is a no-frill coffee maker. Put the coffee in, 5 minutes later it's ready. The 12-cup does have a lot of features on it, plus instead of being plastic, it is finished in a black chrome, which is nice, but that probably doesn't matter to most. Now, as you can see on it, you've got a clock, you've got another feature where if you hit this for 1 to 4 cups, what that'll do, it brews the coffee a little bit hotter. Now, I've tried it that way also, and the coffee doesn't seem to be any better, it's just hotter. You've then got a timer, you've got the self-clean feature, which doesn't seem to be much different than just running water through it with no coffee. You've then also got the timer, which if you want to use the timer to have it started, that's great, but if you don't need that, which I don't, then it's of no use. So in both of these coffee makers, the only benefit I can see to spending $120 on the one on the left versus $30 on the one on the right is that the $130, $120 coffee maker will make 12 cups at once instead of 4. So I would recommend the Cuisinart 4-cup.